It's usually a 10-minute or a 10-day thing that holds us back, whereas making the decision, 10 years from now will make the difference, will make the impact. So again, the minute I see the 3 dots appear, my heart rate goes high. I start imagining what they're going to say. I'm preparing my instant response.
Company, hosting my websites for like 15 years, but I've had such nightmare with them since February, and I've signed up for like 5 more years. I'm like, I need to get out.
We'll pay the fear tax for that for years. We'll look back and go, I wish I'd made that decision then. Welcome back to the Mindful Past podcast. Harry, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing very well. You're looking quite more refreshed from the last time we spoke, when I think you were suffering from extreme jet lag. But you got
jet lag. Yeah, I don't know if it's that or the camera, because I couldn't get my camera to work on this recording, so I'm using a backup camera. So I've got this kind of smoky look going on, a little bit of extra light priming through. I think it's deceiving you. The lights shining off my face are making me look more radiant than I probably feel. But yeah, no, all good, all good. It's hey, look, we've had a weekend of sunshine that always replenishes the spirit, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's been, I think, because we spoke probably a couple of weeks ago, and I think in that, not that first bit, I think it was the half term, the bank holiday weekend, that weekend.
Yeah.
It was, scorchio, as it was. And honestly, it's like being on holiday. So I've been in the water recently.
Yeah.
I jumped in the water the last time I spoke to you. I don't think I had. But I went in the first day, which was on the Thursday, because it was the first one since October. So I thought, I'll just go in a shorty and boots. And I was swimming along, and it was actually about 15.5. So, I was
not bad. Yeah, especially
bad.
With a shorty on.
Yeah, it's definitely fun with the shorty. But then I had 2 old ladies swimming in the opposite direction to me in just their bathing suits. And we stopped and chatted for a bit. And I was like, I feel like a little bit guilty now with my shorty when you guys are swimming like that. And they're like, no, like getting in's good. And they were doing it all year. So they go, not every day, but they go throughout the winter in just bathers. And I said, do you not get any colds then? And they're like, no, we don't get any colds. But then a couple of days later, I think my sister and my niece were out. So I was just in my normal trunks. So I jumped in with them. It had already gone up to about 17. So I've been going most days. It's just now in swimmers. And it's on my watch anyway. So I don't know how accurate this is, but it's always what I measure it on. It's between sort of 17 and got up to 19 already. Yeah, May. So it's been very pleasant. And the other day we went in, it was clear as well. You can see your feet. Lovely.
Very good.
It feels like I've been on holiday. How about you? Have you got in the water or?
No, not an expert. We've got a bit of a sewage problem here at the minute, truth be told. So it hasn't kind of tempted me back in. There's a lot of, I guess, back and forth locally on trying to get the water cleaner. It's usually always been really good since I moved up, but there's been some issues recently. But I have been getting in the ice bath. So I've been doing that pretty consistently again. So I was in again this morning. I've upped it to 8 minutes. So I'm kind of sitting there for 8 minutes at about 10 degrees. 10 degrees. Yeah, that's not too bad. So I'm trying to, I guess, not really go longer or colder, just trying to sustain the consistency, really. Apart from that, we're just trying to, as fun enough, we were talking offline a moment ago, kind of organise our lives, getting ready for the summer coming up. I know you've been doing something quite similar. Kind of fine. I've come back from Nashville, and it's kind of a few months now since Christmas, and it's like, obviously a long time ago in May, but so many things on that I'm project managing multiple things. So recently I've obviously had the book launch, we've got the business, we've got the fear stuff that's going on, I've got the University of East Anglia working on the fear equation. So there's loads of different things happening. I've got to try and compartmentalize priorities, put them into an order, document it, and make sure I'm kind of on a progressive pathway with each. But fair enough, I've been doing that with my work life, but I think you've been doing it with your
I've been doing it a lot more mundane
environment, your house, your emails and everything else.
I mean, today, I don't know. Actually, this goes to this idea that we're completion creatures and this idea of procrastination. I think the first blog post I ever wrote was about procrastination, and it was this idea about this thing called the Zeigarnik Effect. I'm not sure if I might have mentioned it before.
I think you talked about it on the show before, yeah.
And for those that are unfamiliar with it, it's based on, I think the word Zeigarnik is the name of the researcher who discovered that waiters, when they were serving people, could remember everything that each person ordered, no problem. But as soon as they paid the bill, the memory just got deleted from them. And it's this idea that we need to feel a task being completed. And until then, we're in a state of whatever, right? And so when it comes to procrastination, And unless it's to tidy your house, you don't try and tidy your house. You just try and tidy one corner of one room, because then you end up doing more. And it was similar today. I think yesterday or today, I got into my head that I've got lots of different email addresses. One that you probably don't know, but is one that I generally sign up to things that are there, right? I have my main one, my Harry one, which is for like family and important things like council tax bills and whatever. But then all the other ones go to this other one, and then I've got a few other ones. And that one has just been full of, just stuff that is useful, but whatever. And I just wanted to file it, so I thought sort by send day would be quite quick. But I mean, we're talking like 20 years worth of emails or something like that. I've actually got through it all. I can't believe it. But obviously it's going to go back to craziness at some point. But the reason I thought it was kind of useful as a topic, or something to talk about anyway today, being that we're talking about mindful paths, is one thing I remember listening to. It was probably not Bob Proctor, it might have been Brian Tracy. I think it was Brian Tracy. He has these laws of the world, if you like, right? So most people have heard of the law of attraction, but there's also another one called the law of correspondence, which basically says that your inner world corresponds to your outer world, or vice versa, or so within, so without, and all that. And I talk about this a little bit in Super Vitality, this idea of your environment, the ether, and tidying up your environment, and you tend to work better when that environment's there. But I've got to say, now I cleared this, because I'm kind of a person that likes order and structure, as you well know. Yeah, and I've been spending a bit of time at my sister's house, and I don't think she listens to this podcast, and I'm not saying anything that I haven't said to her, really, but it's a little bit more chaotic there, right? Obviously, 2 kids, like an almost teenager and a 2-year-old, it's always going to be chaos. But truth be told, I think ever since she was a kid, she always had a bit of a messier room, although she denies that. I like order, and it's easier for me to have that order because I'm generally by myself. But even before this call, I felt a certain lightness, right? Like stuff had been lifted, because I'm like, even though you don't see the email, right? You don't physically see your laptop when you go to bed, or you don't, but this that knowledge that something is like chaotic. And so most things, I haven't deleted everything. I've got folders, obviously, for different things, right? And so I put them into different places, and then deleted all the rubbish. But yeah, this idea, and I don't think people really appreciate their inner world being a reflection of their outer world.
Well, I think there's a reason, right, why military service personnel are so disciplined. I think we know that when we're more organized, and less chaotic, we have less overwhelm, because we're able to organize our lives, we're able to prioritize better. And I'm someone that I'm a perfect example of your waiter. Right? My wife will tell you that I will remember candidate names, client names, agreements that were made 20 years ago. Second I leave the office, I'll be the first to put my wallet on top of the car, let the car drive away while it's gone. I won't remember that I've put it there. I'm always losing things. I mean, funnily enough, so we got back from Nashville, true story, put my wash in the washing, put it in the dryer, and then had to make a payment. And I was like, Luce, I've lost my Amex card. I don't know where it is. I've completely lost it. Don't know where it is. It's gone. Checking. I have no idea where I've put this thing. Like, my short-term memory is just gone. And then, funny enough, I emptied the clothes in the dryer, and there it was inside the jar. It's gone through the wash, gone through the dryer. It's still working. And I said to Lucy, okay, so that's good. And I'm pretty sure my driving license was also with my Amex card. So where's that? So I take all the things out the dryer and go through all the pockets, can't find the driving license. I'm like, oh my God, I can't. It's just such a pain to have to re-get a new driving license. I went back to look in the dryer, and literally, I kid you not, I said to Lucy, come and have a look at this. We went to look at the dryer, and the driving license is stuck to the dryer, like the see-through bit, the transparent bit. So as soon as you walk in, you can see it. It's in the lid in the transparent. It's like just staring at me going, oh my God. I had no idea that I'd even put it in there. I had no idea where it was until I had to then find the Amex card and realize at that point I'd lost it. I'd been back for about 4 days. So for 4 days, not once did it occur to me that I had no idea where I'd put it, because I hadn't needed it. And when I did, I then had to go back through my memories. And I do think now my wife might blame it on my ADHD, for an example, but I think also I struggle with overwhelm. I struggle with organizing my life in the way that you do. I try and take on too much. And then what happens is I've got so many conflicting priorities. I don't know what to focus on next. And then it does become that overwhelm. And you end up kind of not really completing any task fully. I struggle with insomnia. It wouldn't be a surprise for people to understand. It's because I go to bed going, I've got so much I still need to do. I don't know what to finish first. I don't know what to answer first. As soon as I wake up, it's what do I do now? Do I prioritize me and my physical health and do the ice baths and the exercise, or do I clear my to-do list first? Like, I've got various tools and things I use. I've got a done list. I've got a to-do list. I'm aware that kind of repeated behaviors do create new neural pathways and grooves. I need to get better at this, but I haven't yet mastered it.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I often think about you and what you take on, and I'm kind of going the opposite. I want to go in the opposite direction because I'm someone I don't think, even though I've got stress coping mechanisms and stuff, I'm someone that I think the best stress coping mechanism is try not to invite the stress into your house in the first place.
Yeah, I need to get better at that bit.
But there are other people who really thrive on it. I was thinking of, we were talking with my sister and niece about Donald Trump and Elon Musk because both don't like him, but they can't really give me any definitive reason. It's this kind of mind idea that everyone doesn't like them, so they don't like them. But anyway,
yeah.
I was thinking those two, I think, thrive on stress. Like, I think Donald Trump, I remember hearing Joe Rogan say something like, most presidents, like you see Barack Obama when he went into office and came out of office, right? He looked about 50 years older. But Donald Trump looked younger after his first term. Like, he thrives on it somehow. I'm not that kind of person. I couldn't be president of the US or probably the CEO of some billion-dollar company. Because I'm thinking more as my life progresses more and more, and I've had little issues over the last few weeks, a couple of which we may go into, and I'm like, I just want to almost like detach myself from all the responsibility. I don't have the responsibility level that you do, but I have various things, and sometimes I just think, I just want to, have a bag and one bank account, and just that's it, and then just keep everything simple.
Yeah.
And have
I get it. I recorded a video today for my Fear to Bold Instagram channel, all the fear stuff. And one of the videos I used was a poem that my daughter, I'll share it with you afterwards, wrote for me years ago. It was kind of came up on Time Hop. It was like 8 years old. And the poem was a picture of me sat on my laptop. And it was hoping she had more time with her dad, right? And I read that at the time. And actually, it led to quite a few changes in my life reading that poem. So it had the impacts that's how she saw me in the moment. And I wanted to shift that. But it's funny how you start to default back to who you are before. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm back on my laptop again. And I've got to use this poem as kind of a reminder that I don't want to fall back into old habits. But sometimes I think certainly on the work side of things, we feel that that security kind of emotion. We want to secure our family, you want to secure their futures. You have to work really hard to create income, and everything's driving you from all angles that income's important, create your wealth, get mortgage free, whatever it is you need to do to try and secure your family's thing. But eventually you almost get to this warped view of thinking that income equals love. And of course it doesn't. And we know that presence is what love is all about. And my daughter just sees me back in the day, she just saw me at the laptop. And it's like, I have that as a constant reminder, but it's interesting that sometimes we use work to justify other things. And using your Trump example, I think it's an interesting thing. I think I've talked about this on the show before, but people often talk about stress. Stress is one of the most overused words ever. And I understand we've got different levels of stress, but we use stress as a kind of catch-all term. And of course, stress sits on a bell curve. And the type of stress that most people are familiar with is distress, which is when we're coming down the other side of the bell curve, where it comes too much, that overwhelm comes too much, we burn out, we break down, we have a nervous breakdown, whatever it is, but that's when we get into distress. But on the other side of it, which is probably where Barack Obama got to, if that's how he came out, but on the other side of the bell curve, you've got something called eustress, which is where I think Trump operates, where you get that, people feel like I thrive under pressure. We all thrive under pressure, just not too much. You turn up the dial too much and that pressure becomes distressing. But there's a gap between sort of doing nothing to getting the top of the bell curve, which is called the eustress part of the curve, where we actually thrive. And that's the bit I want to try and stay in. But it's amazing when you're operating at the top end of that eustress curve, where you feel like you're thriving, getting loads done, you're having impact. It only takes sort of one other thing to break the camel's back and to move it into distress. And I'm always kind of navigating that balance. I certainly haven't nailed it yet, but I'm working on it. But I think it's an important thing for people to understand. People do thrive in stress, but it's what side of the bell curve you want.
I think a large part, when you were speaking there, what jumped into my head, what tips me between either distress or eustress, is the feeling of control. So like, the other day I was getting the house ready, and actually this is an interesting conversation we should have about how we catastrophize in our head and story tell, but I'll get to that.
Yeah.
But I was getting the house ready for Airbnb people, and I don't know why, I always kind of push it and push it and push it. So if they're going to check in at 4:00, I'm thinking, I should have really done it on Thursday. Now it's Friday. Now it's like 12:00. Now it's 1:00. I'm like, I know I can do it in an hour. And then I was thriving under that sort of pressure because I knew I had control. It was a small operational environment, everything else like that. I think when I was getting stressed, I got a message from a tenant that I need to kind of deal with, and that annoys me and stresses me out because it's like working to someone else's timescale, or they want it. They're always like want it done yesterday or whatever, even though it's not urgent or anything like that. And so then that sort of stresses me out, where I feel like also I can't deal with some of those things. So I'm like, now I need to find a handyman or a builder or this, or, and it becomes an expense that I can't really justify and all this. That's when it becomes more stressful for me. But when I feel like I've got some level of control, even let's say I was doing the emails and I thought, right, I need to get it done by 5:30 so I can jump on the call with Nick. Right, I know I'm focused, and I've got that little bit of stress that's keeping me hyper focused, but I've got control of the situation. I think for me, it's about, do I have a sense of control or not? And if I feel I haven't got the control, then I'm more stressed. Two things actually when it comes to stress and worry. So the last couple of weeks, I've also been thinking about, like in my head. So two things to do with Airbnb, right? So I had a very awkward guest 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
Who basically, first time this ever happened in 2 years of Airbnb in this place. And they were just moaning, saying that it was, basically they were going through it like the whole place more detailed than a level 3 survey would, right? Taking photos underneath areas that were not ever used or visible by a normal guest, right? And saying, in 12 years of Airbnb, this is far below standard, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I actually used ChatGPT a lot to kind of temper my emotional response to make it real factual. And in the end, it was kind of all good, but I acquiesced and I just gave them the discount they were after, which was a substantial discount.
Yeah.
And actually significantly more to me, because I get a lot less than it. I get 20% less than what they think you get because of Airbnb fee. So the whole weekend or whatever cost me money because of cleaning and everything else, which I subsidize. But the point I was going to say is, then I'm thinking, well, they've got 2 weeks to review me, right, when they leave Airbnb. So now I'm going through all the scenarios of what I would review them as, and I was going through that with ChatGPT, so it's ready, but I didn't want to leave them a review because then it prompts them to leave a review. And hopefully the way I left the email, it said, now hopefully this is a good resolution, i.e. this is the end of it. But I'm there yesterday, like 10:59, just still waiting to see if because they get till like 11 o'clock. And then for some reason, the Airbnb went on for a few more hours. And I'm thinking, if they review me, I need to get in there quickly, not do a response to their review, but do a review of them for other hosts. And so I was creating this whole stress thing for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Like, is this going to happen? In the end, the best scenario was they didn't need me a review. I didn't need them a review. They got basically a free holiday, parted ways. But that was one example of where, what I was playing out in my head for the 2 weeks, though, was the Dalai Lama quote that I actually mentioned in the Super Vitality book, which paraphrases something like, if there's something you're worried about and there's something you can do about it, why worry? If there's something you're worried about and there's nothing you can do about it, why worry? And so I was playing that through my head because I was thinking, right, what can I do in this situation? Well, I can prepare my response, which I've done and crafted with Airbnb to make it not vindictive or spiteful, but just very factual and polite, but accurate and with subtext so that future hosts will understand who they are. And that's all I could do. And then I put an alert, for 10:30 on the Sunday morning to check, make sure I hadn't got any reviews or emails. And then I had to let it go. Kind of worked to a degree, but not.
Yeah, you mentioned the word imagination, as you know, from the fear equation stuff that I'm developing. The imagination is the force multiplier. So imagination itself isn't what makes us fearful or worried. It's when it's connected to uncertainty. And the uncertainty in this example was, are they going to leave you with you? Are they not? And then that reflects in the anxiety you feel, your bodily response, the heightened heart rate, the sweat, whatever it is you're thinking about. And your mind starts to catastrophize very, very quickly. And it's a human thing to do because we are naturally anxious. It's as we've talked about evolution before in the show, but it's served us for many, many years. It's very hard to come out of that mindset. But it's interesting that when imagination gets involved, it's really hard. And it's great to have those mantras you've got from the Dalai Lama because they can help you bring things back into perspective. Yeah, it's the imagination variable that can really turn something into, it turns out I didn't leave any review at all. But in our heads, we're imagining all the possible scenarios, and that triggers everything else in our body.
Yeah.
As you know about the amygdala fires in 88 milliseconds, a fear response. And it's really hard then to get our prefrontal cortex to kind of engage and say, actually, let's rationalize this. What can we do? What can we not do? What's within our sphere of control, which and obviously you know all this, but what's interesting is no matter how much you and I can do the Mindful Past podcast, we've done this for over a couple of years now, but we're still not perfect. Like, it's still very hard to control the mind. And I've talked on this show about, say, control what you think, control how you feel, change the way you think, change the way you feel. That's great as a statement, but actually when you're in the moment, it's really hard to change how you think and to change how you feel, because at the back of your mind, your amygdala is firing from all cylinders going, this is a problem, alarm system. I want
to tell you another, even more relevant story to what you're talking about that happened this weekend, and how I used. I've got to say, as much as I love and hate technology, I've been using ChatGPT this weekend to really rein me in a little bit with certain things. So I had some Airbnb guests that are staying in this house right over the weekend. They came on Friday, and as I said, look, when I was trying to tidy up, and it's all well and good. But then I came back from being out in the evening. I came back about 8:00, and they had already told me they're going to be out, and they're going to be out till 10:30. And they did say something that later you'll understand. I'll tell you what they said at the end, and then I'll
hold it.
Make sense. But I came back around 8:00, maybe 8:10, something like that. And I came in, and I go downstairs, and they're upstairs, and they're on my house, but on the top floor. There's no door for them. There's a door for me. And I come in, and I hear what sounds like a hairdryer. Now, I can hear when people are upstairs because of footsteps, this, that, and the other. And they had said that they're going to go out, and it didn't appear like anyone was in. And so I'm like, have they left the hairdryer on? Right? What's going on? And I couldn't really see. I didn't even step on any of the steps or anything like that. I didn't look, right? But I could hear it, what I thought was a hairdryer. So anyway, I got onto the messaging app on Airbnb, and I said, hey, so-and-so, I hope you found somewhere good to eat, because they were asking me about somewhere to eat earlier. By the way, I've just come in. I hear this noise. Sounds like maybe a hairdryer's on. Is anyone in the house or anything like that? And then I get no and also because some lights are on as well. So I'm like, okay, maybe someone's up there. But they're a family of, I think 6, it was 4 kids, right? Which I wasn't expecting, because it's supposed to be maximum 5, but one was an infant, and Airbnb don't tell you that or whatever. And anyway, no response. So I'm thinking, okay, so about an hour later, about 9:00, I get the telephone number for him from the app. And so I text him instead, because a lot of people aren't going to look at the app and get notifications. Say, similar text, right? Came in, hearing a hairdryer going on, or hearing something like that's been going on, everything all right. And then about 10 minutes later, I sort of sitting there, I hear someone come in, and I sort of see from the window, whatever, that he's come back. And then I hear that the noise is gone, right? So I'm like, okay, right. But I see that the lights are still on, because I'm in the garden at one point, and I can see from outside that the lights are on in the bathroom and living room and whatever. I'm like, okay, maybe the wife's in because baby or whatever, I don't know. But turns out I don't think anyone was in. Anyway, the next day, I still don't get any response from them about this. No response to this. And I can't tell whether they've read the message or not. So I'm thinking, I've read the message, because sometimes on Airbnb, it won't show you that the message is read, because they might see it on their email, or they might just scroll down on their phone. So I'm thinking, okay. And then I went out. I didn't really see them in the day. And I came back about 2 in the afternoon, and they weren't they didn't appear to be in. Like all the shoes were gone because they leave the shoes downstairs, whatever. Can't hear anything upstairs. And I'm in the garden, sunny day, just drying my trunks from being in the pool. And I look up into the lounge and I'm like, lights are still on, right? Still got the lights on. And I'm like starting to get a little bit irritated. I'm like, this is, I'm paying for this, right? So I'm like, lights are still on, right? And then I don't think I see them again. And then I hear them come back around 10 o'clock at night. But as I'm talking to other people about this weird situation that's happening, I'm suddenly thinking to myself, and I was going through all this thing, and I was saying to ChatGPT, right? Yeah, this is what's happened, right? There's an appliance being left on. I'm thinking it could be a fire hazard because of if a hairdryer's been left on or something like that, it could cause a problem, right? And so it was more from a safety concern. It wasn't the noise.
So quick question.
Yeah.
I know middle of storytelling. Is GPT, because it's a sycophant, is it telling you you're absolutely right to be worried and feeding it, or is it giving you reassurance?
It's actually been very rational and saying, look, let's separate from what you are observable facts from what are hallucinations. Okay. Firstly, you don't know it's a hairdryer. You can hear something. At one point when it went off, I thought, maybe it was the extractor fan for the bathroom light. And then I, saw that the bathroom...
Funny, because your imagination's already on full tilt here to work it out.
What I'm thinking is it could either be the hairdryer or the extractor fan. But the extractor fan, maybe I wouldn't be able to hear it from there. But anyway, so it's telling me, look, all you know is this happened. You don't even know if you turned anything off or anything. You know that the sound was there and then the sound wasn't there. And the sound sounded like something. Right? That's basically all you know. You don't know why they're responding or not responding, blah, blah, blah. So you can't, because I'm not going, they're wasting my electricity, whatever. Right. So anyway, I go to bed quite early, I think, on the Saturday night. I'm knackered, so I go to bed at 9:30. I hear them come back around 10. And then I wake up the next morning. And I'm thinking, look, he's not left a note on the door. He's not knocked for me. He's not done anything like that. But at the same time, before I go to bed, I suddenly think, right, I suspect, because of they were wearing, I don't know what they're called, but the skull caps, maybe quite Orthodox Jews, because the kids were wearing them the whole time and all that, rather than, I know lots of Jewish people who don't wear those, just happenstance. But then I was thinking, I wonder if there's something about the Sabbath. So I'm starting to research, what's the deal on the Sabbath for maybe more traditional Orthodox Jewish people? And so then it says, from 18 minutes before sundown. So sundown was around 9 o'clock, I think. So from about 8:40 on the Friday, you're not. That's the start of you not being able to apparently use technology. Maybe also it says anything that could be created as lighting fire, which includes starting a car, right, turning on an oven, operating light switches. Right, and so on, and even at one point, I'm sure I read that even making a permanent record of something, i.e., writing on a piece of paper, is forbidden until it's not sundown on the Saturday, but it's a bit after, about 10 o'clock afterwards. So I'm thinking, I wonder if that's what's going on. But I'm thinking he must still have read something because I believe he came back and turned something off, right? But then he didn't knock, he didn't say anything, he didn't write a note. But now I think, maybe he didn't write. And again, ChatGPT is going, look, you can't actually assume that this is what's happened, right? Yeah, you're making an observation that potentially that's what's happened, but you can't assume any of that. And don't mention anything about lights, whatever. But actually, interestingly enough, before they left on the Friday, after they were going for some food, he did ask me, are they going to be, we're going to get back at 10:30, quite late. Are there going to be any lights on? And I'm thinking, well, firstly, he doesn't know me, but I don't operate with lights in the evening anyway. But I was like, yeah, I mean, there's a switch.
What type of light? Blue light? Real light?
I was like, you can just turn this switch on here and it turns on the hall light and this one turns on the upstairs light. And he wasn't saying, and then I said, but there's also this sensor light at the door and this is on a timer as well. And he was like, okay, that's good. I was like, and I didn't think anything of it. And then now I'm thinking, because originally when I saw the lights, I'm like, they've left the lights on all night, all day. Maybe they left them on for the kids because,
I've got a question for you. Generally. Your mind and my mind. I think you have more space in your head to be able to have all these imaginations of what might be happening. I think if it was me, I don't think I'd think about it. Not because I wouldn't have the same storytelling creations in my mind and the imagination run riot. I think I've got so much stuff in my head at the minute trying to get stuff done. I wouldn't find space for it. I think I'd just go, I think that's a hairdryer. Oh, well, you know.
You're right. That's a good point, is because a lot of the time we fill our heads with so much stuff that we don't have time to.
We do the same with our houses, right? We tidy them up, and then what we do, we fill them up with more stuff. And then we have to have a seasonal or an annual declutter, because every time we find space, like I can see behind you now, you've got a shelf. I can tell you in my house, if I saw an empty shelf like that, within a day, 24 hours, there'd be stuff on that shelf that I don't know where it's come from. It lived somewhere else before, but now you've created a tidy space, Harry. I'm going to fill up that space.
I don't like things on surfaces, because as I've come to the point where at the moment I'm trying to do the clean on the Airbnb myself, because the cleaning costs just cripple anything that you might make. Nothing on surfaces is much easier than something on surfaces.
Did you find out from them if it was the
okay, so here's what's happening, right? I turn off my phone at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock at night on Saturday. Then I turn it back on Sunday morning. And I see a message, because he was really good with messages up until that Friday night message. And I'm thinking, is he avoiding it? What? So I get a text message, which I don't know when it's sent because my phone was off. And then I get a reply to my Airbnb message. And he said, sorry about the noise. That was just a white noise generator to help the baby to get to sleep. Right. So, and he said that on both messages in effect. And then I don't think I responded to that message, because I was like, I just want to have them check out and respond overall on everything. But then he asked me if he could stay longer, like in terms of parking the car. So I said, oh yeah, that's fine, no problem. But anyway, so I'm thinking, okay, actually that's fine, right? But the point I've given this as feedback to him actually in the Airbnb, right? Because they were nice guests, courteous, right? Even though they had 4 children, they didn't really make much noise.
Sure.
But from an Airbnb host perspective, if you've got a query to your guest about something that is, about the property, it's good to have a timely response. And if you know ahead of time that you can't respond, it would be really useful for me to understand that. Because if you said, look, you know what, it doesn't have to explain why. He can say, look, my phone is off for 48 hours.
You're right. But you know what? We are the stars in our own movies. And in your movie, you're the star and you're wondering what's going on. It's your property. He's the star in his own movie. He's not thinking about you. That doesn't make him a character flaw from his side necessarily, but he's probably focused on 4 kids. I'm trying to play with my head, the Sabbath, things to organize, things to switch off, no gadgets, whatever for the kids. I'm going to keep them active, all that stuff. And he's a star in his own movie. And all the other people in that movie are just people coming and going that feed into his movie. And for whatever reason, you're a side part character. The sideshow Bob, you're the guy on the side he's not interested. Although everything you said makes total sense. He absolutely could have reached out and given you some preempt. But
I think just saying that on the Friday to say, look, okay, we want the lights for whatever reason. It doesn't even have to say that. It just have to say, look, I'm going to not be reachable, whatever. Because normally I do that with people as well, especially if they're new to connecting with me. I'll say to them, look, honestly, my phone is usually on airplane mode, and if it's not on airplane mode, it's on silent. So don't expect to get hold of me, basically. Or, I'm not going to be reachable in these hours.
Got my daughter's voicemail message. Hey, thanks for calling. Don't leave me a message. I'll never listen to them. Bye. It's my favourite message.
The couple yesterday, which were from a month ago, from the doctors saying, and I have no idea because she spoke so quickly. I don't know which doctors or anything. But anyway, the point is, had he just said that, it would have been fine, because then I don't create this story in my head and I leave things be. And the electricity is not that big a deal, but it was more about in my head.
I get it.
They're just coming into a property, and because it's not theirs, they're disrespecting it. They're doing this, they're doing that, and it wasn't that at all.
Catastrophic imagination, though, it's not a character flaw, as we all have it. It's just kind of Stone Age survival system that's running on 21st century data. And I think that, we just need a bit of a software update now, right? Because we don't need to survive in the way that we did. So we don't need to imagine what we do. But it's really hard for our thinking to catch up. I always like the example where you get a text message that says we need to talk, or I get I get 3 missed calls from my wife in quick succession. And instantly, I realized I haven't got back to her, and she's called me again. I'm going, okay, what's gone wrong? Instantly, I'm creating these catastrophic movies faster than Netflix can about all the things that have gone wrong. And I called because, oh no, it wasn't me. It was Leo playing with the phone. But you've created all this, and now what are you going to say? What's going to happen? The whole, we need to talk in a text message, and it's from your boss or from your partner. You're going, oh my God, what am I going to lose my job? Then he goes, oh no, it's just we've got a presentation coming up and it's fine. Oh my God, that's how we are hardwired, really.
We create these stories, and I created a story all weekend.
Yeah.
I think I was accurate in terms of my assessment. I haven't confirmed that. I'm not going to confirm that. But
sure.
Something I was going to say is it would be quite interesting to read back through my ChatGPT history, because I was writing the reviews like on the Saturday, right? And talking to it on the Friday on the Saturday. And ChatGPT was tempering my spirits. It was saying, look, let's just wait until they've checked out and you've checked the place and done this. And so if you see my original public response to my final public response and the difference.
They're different.
The final one basically painted them as glowing people who basically had a delay in getting back to me at some point to do with the property. Whereas the one before was like, whatever. So it was actually good. And I feel guilty the fact that I've over-relied on technology to help articulate something, and I've actually used it a couple of times today in that way. My sister's going, you need to be able to think for yourself, and I'm thinking, I think technology does take a lot of thinking away, right? You remember back in the day when we were at school, I don't know if you did, but I could remember 30 different phone numbers, right, of my friends. Now I can barely remember mine. And so technology is taking our brain capacity away, like getting to places with maps, GPS is taken over that.
We do fit it with other stuff. That's my view.
That's what I was going to say. So I'm thinking, is it such a bad thing? Because we don't need to know how to use a slide rule now. We don't need to know how to do these things. We might do if there becomes some apocalyptic event and we go back to the Stone Age. But really there, we're going to have to learn how to cook.
But 50 years ago, you may have needed to remember, or 30 years ago, maybe to remember 30 numbers. But at that moment in time, we didn't have, I'm using your life as an example here, you didn't have to think about things necessarily like blue light blocking glasses or things that make us healthy. We didn't have the knowledge. We didn't have to think about sustainability, environmental impact, all these things, because they weren't discovered or wasn't known at that point, and therefore your focus was elsewhere. And now it is, and it's important to you. Actually, would you rather remember 30 numbers when you don't need to because technology can do it? Would you rather be more mindful of how you can live your life more effectively, more engaged state of mind, really?
It goes back to that point you were talking about before, where if you were in the same situation, it probably wouldn't have escalated in the same way because you don't have the capacity in your head to create that space. When technology frees our headspace because we don't know how to remember telephone numbers and we don't really have to spend ages articulating how we're going to spend, then it creates more opportunity for sure other things to develop, right?
Well, there's a great example of this, right? You mentioned maps. So years ago, I remember being quite stressed. I could never get out of Carmarthen. I kid you not. I went into Carmarthen on a holiday with my girlfriend at the time, and no matter which exit road I took, I ended up back in bloody Carmarthen. It's true, but you're trying to navigate through maps, and I don't know. We look back with fondness because that's how our memory serves us. But actually, it was quite frustrating sometimes having to navigate through maps, pulling over, checking where you are, trying to get someone in the passenger seat to navigate for you, all this stuff. And actually, navigating could be really, really stressful. My wife will tell you that, and you'll remember from the first ever London to Paris cycle trip, it was pretty stressful using the maps because we didn't have access to the kind of tools and things we have. We had, well, they were available, but they weren't as readily as available as they are now. But now we've got SatNav. It does allow us to put the SatNav on, and for me to put a podcast on, like Mindful Pass, and listen and learn and think about what I might have for dinner or make, or think about a business challenge, which I'd never been able to do it. And actually, I view driving now as that kind of space where I'm on my own. I can actually have some really good, solid hours worth of thought about a particular challenge or problem, which I wouldn't be able to have if I was trying to navigate a map and have that. So I think you're absolutely right. Like, yes, sometimes it can make us lazy. And yes, I don't have to have the knowledge like I may have had back in the day about how to get from A to B. But equally now I can retain information and challenge myself, learn and develop my brain in different ways, knowing that that's kind of time and space that I've got to myself to be able to do so. So I think, there's pluses and minuses with these things.
No, absolutely. I think it's all about allowing space for things in your head that are important to grow. And I've often used the example in schools where I go, oh, hands up who's heard of Leonardo da Vinci. And obviously most people have heard of Leonardo da Vinci, and they know that he was obviously not just an artist, but an inventor and, created all these amazing things, even though, to be fair, he didn't really have much influence on history because most of his designs were lost until 100 or 200 years ago. So it didn't really make much difference. However, I say to them, well, I can almost guarantee you that he would have created none of those fabulous things had he had TikTok. Right? I'm like,
yeah.
because you had space to breathe and think and create. That's what happened. But now we fill that with pointless things a lot of the time.
We do. That's where the discipline or the order, going back to the sort of decluttering piece at the start, is really, really important, because it's very easy to... In the current world that we live in now, particularly in the Western world, we don't like space. We like to clutter everything. Every moment of silence, we need to fill it with something. And interestingly, going back to the email piece, there's been some research on this, but readers interpret ambiguous email as more negative than intended. So if you get an email that has an ambiguous subject line, ambiguous opening, even if you know who it's from, if you don't instantly understand what that's about, our brains automatically assume it's going to be negative when we open it. And as we know, our amygdala responds quicker than our conscious mind does. So, if we're looking, you've just gone through, 20 years worth of emails. Anyone's in there you didn't understand, it might be something from legal or whatever. Maybe time saves you from that. But that's our human response now. Like, we can't necessarily tell the difference between a tiger and a WhatsApp message from our boss or whatever. Like, we're going to respond in exactly the same way. And there's so much digital stuff coming in now. You get an Instagram message and you don't understand who it's from, and it says, we need to talk. You don't even know who the person is. I mean, really, we don't care, but we think, oh my God, this could be someone important. This could blow up my entire Instagram. I'm going to ruin everything. And actually, it's just someone going, hey, I want to talk because I really love your content. Oh God, thank God for that.
I know. I think I mentioned it once before. I got an email from a work client or whatever, and it said, can't remember the subject line, but it was something along the lines of, not we need to talk, but something like that. And in my head, I was playing out all sorts of things. Did I get some bad feedback from a person, this and the other? And it turns out, I think they wanted to know if I could cover a particular date or something. And I'm like, I just don't title your emails like that, like, because you create, just say, something like, potential cover opportunity or something like that. Not, can you call me?
100%. Well, the worst is the 3 dots. So I'm dealing with an issue. Won't disclose it in a minute because I'm still going through it. Client or company that a personal thing I've bought, and they haven't delivered it for over 2 years, right? And I'm saying, look, I did want this item, but quite frankly, it's been 2 years. I want a refund, right? And they're saying, well, funnily enough, miraculously, it's now ready. And it's like, well, only because I've changed it. And it's just like, okay. And now they're going to deliver it. And I'm saying, I'm going to refuse delivery because I just want the money back. Like, time's moved on, whatever. So having a back and forth. And we're on WhatsApp and you're messaging an email. What's really funny about WhatsApp is you can see when someone's typing. So again, the minute I see the 3 dots appear, my heart rate goes high. I start imagining what they're going to say. I'm preparing my instant response. When it gets even worse is they had the 3 dots and then they disappear.
Yeah.
Oh no, what were they going to say? I was prepared. And then you sit there waiting for the next 3 dots to appear again. This happened, I kid you not, a bit like your example. You're waiting there for like an hour for these 3 dots to come back, and they don't come back. They've obviously decided to sleep on it, but I don't know that. And because I've seen them, and I've seen the 3 dots for a while, and they've disappeared, they've come back, they've disappeared. I'm like, they're going to come back again. And I'm fired up for what I'm going to come back with. And it's like, oh no, they haven't done anything. And that's a complete wasted energy for me. But it's our brains fill in the gaps of those 3 dots. And actually, it may have come. Who knows? When they do write back, maybe they'll concede, maybe they won't. But I've already assumed every possible outcome because I've seen those 3 dots. And the way that our body responds, I think, is just incredible.
It's crazy. I have something similar with a company like that has been hosting my websites for like 15 years, but I've had such nightmare with them since February for various reasons. And they keep refusing my request for a refund. In their head, they're thinking 30 days has passed. And I've signed up for like 5 more years. I'm like, I need to get out of this. And it's not a straightforward refund, but I've actually, again, going back to AI, used ChatGPT to really articulate the things. And it's really good because it says, like, now you just stop, right? You wait, or you say this, and you keep this factual, and you do this. And actually, I've been escalating and re-escalating it. And finally, I've got a message back from the office of the CEO, because I think the last time I spoke to someone, I said, is so-and-so the current CEO and everything else? Because I've had this before where I've just written to the office of the CEO for like Sony once, and you just get action quicker. So finally someone's writing back, and hopefully they're going to look into it a bit more. The point is, it was quite good in articulating the response. It did that with a projector that I had, that they didn't want to honour the fact it had broken within maybe just outside of warranty or within warranty. And the way it came across was much better than I could. So in the end, I got a replacement, or got it fixed, which was good. So consider using AI in your responses to that, and get it to know the history, and you might get something.
Yeah, don't be afraid to go up the chain either. I think most people
go straight up there.
Won't necessarily do that because they're fearful. And again, fear speaks. It's, oh no, not yet. I'm not ready. It's not the right time to complain. I'll give them more time. Maybe we let fear dictate to us, how high we should go and what we should write. But actually, you're very good like that. You go straight in.
Interesting though, I just need to temper myself. And like you say, it's easy to have the words to say, don't use the imagination to run away with you and all these other things. But in the moment, we're still like that. But what's been quite useful is I've been chatting to my mum about things, and she, the last couple of years, has been living in a very different perspective of things.
Yeah.
She's like, just, whatever, trivialities, don't tend and get you down, or the Airbnb person, just whatever.
Or as you would say, we've talked about on the show, that we've got to try and reframe the story that we're creating. We always create a disaster story, a catastrophe story. Can we reframe it and say, you know what? So whatever the story is that we create in our mind, can we make it a positive one? We need to talk because he's going to give me a promotion, not because I'm going to get fired. There's little things that we can, easier said than done, I appreciate. But if we can get into that
an issue,
habit.
Even if the issue is an issue, just to see it as, a bump, not a mountain. Because I think from her perspective, she's gone through the ultimate challenge for her. So she's like, it's only, so you're going to lose money on this. Doesn't matter. It's only money. It's only this. It's only that.
Fear is usually a 10-minute or a 10-day thing that holds us back. Whereas making the decision will, 10 years from now will make the difference, will make the impact. And if we don't let ourselves make those difficult decisions because fear is holding us back in the moment, that we'll pay the fear tax for that for years. We'll look back and go, I wish I'd made that decision then. I'll just make it, because that's how we start to move the needle. But
great to chat, and
as always
with you, and we'll catch up again.
I'll catch up with you next week. All right, buddy. Go and have a good night. Take care.
Bye.
Cheers, my friend. Bye-bye.